hold on. There we go. Hi. Hope to make you guys feel better, feel more at ease. If you're on live stream on my TikTok, I'm sorry you can't see my presentation. I did have a wonderful presentation for you guys. Hopefully you'll be able to log into one of my other streams or check out this live stream playback on YouTube, which I hope it will exist for all future watching pleasures. But without further ado, let's go ahead and jump in. Today's topic is all about debt and budgeting. Ooh, two topics that are a little touchy and can sometimes give us a little bit of stress. So I'm excited to talk about those two topics today. And I have created a wonderful little presentation that you are seeing on the screen right now. I actually worked really hard on it, and honestly, I'm supposed to be at my fiance's baseball game right now, but I promised and I said it out loud on the internet that I was going to do this live stream every Friday. So I'm committed. Okay, I worked on this presentation. I'm committed, and I'm going to sit here and I'm going to present my presentation to the fullest. And if I'm late for the game or / miss the whole game, oh well, because this is more important. So I'm excited to show you my presentation. Let's go ahead and jump in. Oh, hold on. Okay. Oh, hold on. Okay. So why are we here? First of all, they don't intentionally teach us about money, right? They teach us everything else that we need to know or allegedly need to know, all this fake history. Don't get me on my soapbox about that, about our current education system. It is a mess. But they don't teach us about money. Right? So we need to learn about money. And there are also not a lot of formal places that don't charge you money to learn about money. So I really am excited about being the person who can provide a lot of free information, free resources, stuff without asking for, something in return, because I think people need that and deserve that, especially when it comes to money. They want to learn, right? So it's like, how do I learn? I'm trying to get this halo lighting off of me. It's okay. It looks like the angels are shining down on me on my TikTok live, but it's okay. So it's like, how do I learn about money outside of paying for it? Hopefully here. Two, they want to make it seem complex and daunting, and how to manage your money and debt, especially when it comes to debt, right? That it's a lot of conflicting messages out there. And we're going to talk a little bit about that today. They tell you that debt is good, but they also tell you it's bad, right? They tell you it's good debt, it's bad debt. No, you need to leverage debt. No, get rid of your debt. No, be debt free. No, do the debt snowball. No, do the debt avalanche, right? It's just so many things. And you're like, dang, I don't know what to do with all this information. So again, hopefully we're here to make sense of some of this stuff. Many people are finding that they don't have the time or energy to think about or plan for their finances. Yeah, that's valid. Okay, I get it. Because life be lifing, right? You have to work. You have to keep up, right? It seems like as soon as I put out a fire over there, it's another fire over here starting. So I get that. And hopefully that, you can turn this on in the background. Maybe you're doing something else right now and you can just listen and learn something from this and be able to apply it to your finances and have a very easy way that's not very energy and time intensive to be able to learn something new about your finances. Also, debt is causing a lot of financial stress. And because of that, people can become avoidant and debt can get out of hand. So I have experienced this on a firsthand basis. Like sometimes it gets to a point where you're just like, I know I don't have the money to pay this bill right now. I know that I just got to settle and I'm going to have to go get this loan. Or I know that this debt is accruing, especially when we talk about student loan debt, right? And I'm one of those people who's just kind of like, all right, we just not even going to look at it. We're going to talk about student loan debt today as well. But a lot of times debt particularly gives us that, if I don't see it, it doesn't exist reaction, that knee-jerk reaction. And I get that. I want you to know I have been there. I am not even fully recovered, right? We're in that together. But hopefully the thing that I know to be true is that the more information that you get, the more empowered that you feel. The more that you feel like you have a plan to actually address it, to tackle it, to get out of this, the better that you feel. So hopefully, with the more that we talk about it, the more that you feel like, okay, I can take this little baby step forward. That's what's going to help you, like the last bullet point there says, make sense of things and feel financially confident. And that is my ultimate goal. So let's talk about what's out there, because God is in a mess. If you're on TikTok, I'm just showing all the different headlines that are coming out right now when it comes to debt. And we're not even going to spend a whole bunch of time here because this is just raising my blood pressure even looking at it, right? First of all, first and foremost, we know that debt on a personal level is just getting heavier and heavier. You might feel like this little man at the bottom right here carrying the debt is just getting heavier. But not only does it feel heavier on a personal level, when we look at the country as a whole, we are at a point where we're inventing numbers for how much debt we have as a country. First, it was never had we ever touched $1 billion. Now we have $2 trillion in debt. And it's absolutely crazy to think about, like, as a country where we are with our debt, that it's not only is it increasingly growing, but it's growing at a faster rate, which can naturally just raise anxiety. And not only that, as a lot of these headlines are saying, people are dealing with their personal debt, which, even with making more money, you might feel that because debt is rising or because interest rates are rising, that even if I'm making more money and maybe I'm paying more towards the debt, it still seems like I'm not getting out of the debt. It feels like you're kind of in quicksand, and the more you struggle to get out, the quicker you're sinking into it, right? So we can see also that debt is on the rise on different types of debt. It's not just the typical student loans or the credit cards. There's also more auto loan debt, more personal loan debt going out the door right now. We're seeing more HELOCs being taken out, which can be a good strategy, but really it's all about how you manage it, which is what we're also going to talk about today. But basically what I want you to get from this is that this is not a just you problem. National average debt by person is about 100,000. Okay, a little over 100,000. Some people are beyond that. Some people are much less than that. But I want to say that to normalize that this is not just a you thing. Okay, if you are struggling with debt, I don't want you to feel alone. I don't want you to feel like I've done something wrong. It is not beyond repair. You can fix this. You can come up with a plan to get out of this and not feel stressed and like you're falling behind. And that's what we're going to hopefully come to at the end of our live stream today. So, as you know, because it's financial literacy awareness, we ain't just going to talk about it. We're going to learn today. You're going to learn today, friend. So what exactly is debt? Debt is a financial obligation undertaken by a borrower that must be repaid to the lender, usually with an additional payment of interest. Okay, so sometimes people forget that little interest part. Like, yeah, okay, you did a lot to get approved for that, $1,000, $10,000, $100,000 loan. But did you look at the interest rate? Did you read the fine print to make sure that that's actually the interest rate and going to stay that interest rate, right? These are the little things that we sometimes forget because we get so excited about what we get approved for. But really, I want to because that language, sometimes that's like, okay, that's a lot of mumbo jumbo. Like, what is it really? I want you to kind of equate debt as this. It's paying an extra high price for access to something that you haven't earned the money for yet. So what do I mean by that? If I'm putting a nice bag on my credit card, what am I really doing? I'm extending credit. I'm borrowing money for something that I haven't quite earned the money for yet. I plan to pay it off in the future with the money that I will earn in the future, but I haven't earned it yet. So I'm going to pay this extra price, which is the interest, for access to this thing that I really want. And I think the reason why I want you to think of it like that, and the reason why I put it to you like that, is because I feel like it helps to put it into a different perspective, right? It makes it seem almost like, is this something that I really can't wait for? Like, one thing about saving is implementing the strategy of delayed gratification. And delayed gratification is basically saying, I'm going to wait, I'm going to save up the money so that I can eventually buy the thing that I want to buy. So if instead I had taken the time to just put away $100 every month until I had enough saved up for the bag, that's me practicing delayed gratification. But instead, what I decided to do, because I had access to credit, because I was willing to pay a higher price for access to this thing that I didn't currently have the money for, I'm now accruing debt. It's basically, and the other thing I want to impress upon you when it comes to the interest is I want to give you a visualization. It's like carrying an increasingly heavy book bag up a mountain. So you see this man right here climbing up this mountain. TikTok, I got a picture of a little stick figure coming up a mountain, right? Imagine me walking behind you on the mountain, but every once in a while I'm putting a big old boulder in your book bag. And you're like, dang, my book bag getting heavy. Like, ooh, this is heavy, right? The longer that you're holding on to the book bag, the heavier the book bag gets. And the higher you're getting, the harder the climb is, right? So that's why everybody tells you, oh, pay off the debt every month, right? Okay, everybody's heard of that before, but why? Why? Because it gets heavier. That's why. So let's keep it going. Earlier, I noted, I'm really bothered by this little light on my TikTok. Let's see if I can fix it like this. It's not working. It's okay. So, next, good debt versus bad debt. Earlier, I mentioned to you, like, there's a lot of conflicting messages out there when it comes to debt. And I'm not one to tell you one of these is right or wrong. Okay. I'm not here to tell you what's best for you or yes, you need to leverage debt, or no, you need to become debt free. There's enough financial advisors, financial coaches, financial people, whatever, who align with either one of these that will tell you really good strategies, points, tips, tricks, all of that. That's not what I'm here for. I want you to understand though what they are saying when they say that. What do they mean when they say that? So the truth is that debt is a tool, right? Debt is a tool that you can use. I could use a hammer to hammer in a nail, or I could use a hammer to hit somebody and crack them over the head. That's two very different ways to use a hammer that's good and bad, but it's a tool. That doesn't make the hammer inherently good or bad, right? So there's no real good or bad debt. It's about how you utilize it. The problem is most of the time people go into the door with debt and they do a whole lot to get approved for debt, or a whole lot of thinking about what I'm going to do with the money once I get access or approved for this money, what I'm going to do with it. And they don't think enough about how they're going to pay it off or how they're going to get out of it, right? Or how they're properly going to leverage it to make them more money. Which, if you're of the leveraging belief, right? Okay, great. But if you want to leverage it, are you buying income producing assets, or are you leveraging debt to buy, I don't know, the next vacation, right? Because that's not the right way to leverage, right? So the truth of the matter is there's no right or wrong. The best advice is just to have as much effort and thought about the plan to manage the debt as your plan to get in the debt, right? And think about how much people really go through trying to get approved for a loan, right? They be talking about getting their paperwork in order, cleaning up their credit, doing all this, that, and the third before they go sit down at the bank or with the loan officer to get approved, right? That they do a lot to get into the window or to get in the door, so to speak, right? But are they doing just as much to manage? And what I mean by that is, do you look at, okay, here's what the minimum payment is. Okay, out of each one of my checks, this is going to be this percentage of that check needs to be going towards this minimum payment. And okay, I'm gonna make the minimum payment for this many months, but on this month, I'm gonna make an extra payment, right? Like that is how you are strategically saying, okay, not only am I just planning to get in this debt, but I'm also planning to properly manage and handle this debt, right? And we're gonna talk a little bit more about that. So here's a good rule of thumb. If you're getting a loan or signing for a debt that you cannot afford 2 to 3 times the minimum payment every month, just don't do it. Don't do it. Okay. I think this especially applies when we're talking about putting stuff on your credit card. And especially it applies when we're talking about well, let's just stick to putting things on your credit card, right? I'm talking about shopping. I'm talking about the fun things, right? The things that you like to do for fun, right? If you are looking at, okay, so if I put this on my credit card, my minimum payment for this is going to be this amount. If you can't afford 2 to 3 times that amount, you probably need to just go ahead and put a strategy together to save the money and then go ahead and purchase the thing, or at least save the money for a couple of months. And then by the time I get the thing on my credit card, I have enough saved up that at least the first few months I can manage that payment, right? Those are two really good strategies to implement if I am going to put something that I really can't afford onto a credit card. Now, sometimes it's unavoidable, right? Sometimes, let's say the car goes up. I don't know, the fridge, something that's essential, and I really just don't have the couple $1,000s that it costs to fix it. I got to put it on a credit card. Can I really afford 2 to 3 times that on my credit card? No. But we're not talking about that case scenario. We're talking about something that is maybe an impulsive buy, a want, a desire. It's not a need. It's not an expense, right? And also, if you're doing that kind of expense on a credit card, we need to have another conversation because we need to talk about building up your emergency savings, which we are going to talk about emergency savings later. We need to talk about, making sure we have like enough money set aside for your car or for the house, because we know if you get a house, it's always going to be something that goes up, right? So these are also budgeting conversations, which we're going to get to that. But if it comes down to it, I'm having to put something on a credit card. This is a really good rule of thumb so that I can approach this and say, is this something that I should put on my credit card, or is this something that maybe I should just try and delay the gratification and save the money? Now, experts actually cite the rule 2836 rule. I'm gonna be honest, I didn't know much about this rule. In my research in preparing for this presentation, found out about this. I thought I'd share. Now, some people, I think this is a bit rigid, right? But I would like to share this because I think if you have no idea, if maybe this is your first time having a credit card, first time approaching debt, or you're trying to consider, should I apply for this loan, this business loan, this loan, personal loan, whatever, right? Here's a great, measuring stick on how much should I really be going for. It says here a maximum of 28% of your gross monthly income goes towards living expenses, and no more than 36% on total debt services, right? So if I'm looking at my total debt picture and out of my monthly income, let's say my monthly income, I'm just coming up with simple numbers here because my brain wants to work with simple, $1,000. I make $1,000 a month, and I look at it and I'm actually spending $400 a month on my debt. I'm spending too much on my debt. I need to reduce my debt. I need to make some differences, in how I'm utilizing my debt. Now, if I look at it and I say, okay, my debt payment every month is $200. Okay, great. I'm below that 36% threshold. Great. I'm within a great range as far as my debt to income ratio. Perfect. Which a lot of people have heard debt to income ratio, but it's like, okay, I don't know. I don't know what I should go for, right? What should be my ratio? Here's a rule of thumb. Experts say 28-36 rule. 28-36. Okay, next. I don't know if that was corny. I hope not. Okay, type of debt. Next, type of debt. So, it's important that you know what type of debt you have, right? Sometimes I sit down with people, I'll even have them say, oh, I pulled up my credit report and I saw the debts that I have on my credit report, or I know I have some debts. I don't know what type of debt it is, right? I just know it's here on my credit report. I know it exists. I don't know what kind of debt it is. Well, let me tell you about the two different types that it typically falls into one of these two different categories. So the first one is revolving credit, a revolving debt, meaning that interest loan can go up or down. The amount loaned can be used at any time, paid back and borrowed again, high interest rates, and only owe interest on the amount used. Right. So this is like a credit card. I get approved for a $10,000 line of credit. I use, $2,500. Okay, great. Now, if I don't pay it off that month, for month one, it could be 30%. For month 2, it could be 31%. Month 3, it could be 29%, right? So just know that with that revolving debt, it can go up and down. And because you have $10,000 in access to credit, right, you can also, instead of borrowing $2,500, maybe you take out another $1,000, right? Because why? I have maximum of $10,000, right? So that's revolving. Now the other side is an installment. So think of something like a student loan, a mortgage, right? This is something where the payments are a bit more fixed. They offer you that fixed rate. Sometimes cars are like this too. A car note, a car payment is typically a fixed one. Sometimes, unless you refinance it, you'll get a different rate. But for the most part, you're locked in with this is how much I have been approved for, and you pay it back over a certain period of time. Right? So that's the two different types. Now, when we're approaching paying off debt, and we're going to talk about this a little bit more in a bit, but when we're talking about approaching towards paying off debt, the one you typically want to focus your energy on paying off first is the revolving. Why? Because that's the one that's variable. It can go up and down. It's unpredictable. We don't know what the rate is going to be. That's why people are typically saying, hey, make sure you pay off your credit card total balance every month. Now, if you already been on a slippery slope and the debt is to the point where my credit card payment, I pay the minimum, but I carry a balance every month, okay, right? We gonna play catch up. But that advice is out the window, right? I can't pay off the balance every month right now. That's why I'm in the predicament I'm in. I get that. So then we talk about making sure that we can pay additional payments towards chipping away at that debt little by little, which again, we're going to talk about. Now, the installment payments, we want to make sure that we're hitting those minimums every month, because either one of them, missing a payment, those are the things that show up on your credit report, right? Making sure that you are just staying on top of payments, because they lay out very specifically for you, hey, as long as you pay it off in this amount of time, you'll either not accrue any interest or only accrue this small amount of interest, right? So typically you want to stick to making sure that you're making those on-time payments. Again, sometimes things happen, particularly when we talk about student loans. That's a whole nother sailboat, right? We want to keep that in whatever state it's in for as long as it can be in. And I think we're actually about to talk about that next. But that's the two different types. And it's important for you to know what type that you have, because that's where you need to focus your debt repayment energy. So as I said, let's talk about student loans. Now, if you're a client of mine, you probably heard me say, if not, this is typically what I tell my clients. Hey, if you're in a place where you can get a repayment plan that is paused or forbearance, do it. Go for it, okay? Because of a whole lot of reasons, but mostly because our country is a mess. Student loan repayment is a mess. And the longer we can avoid making those payments, the better, right? As long as the interest is not accruing. Now, if the interest is accruing, we need to have a different conversation, right? But one thing I know for sure, and I'm not a student loan expert, I actually pulled this up here, what we're seeing on the screen from Federal Student Aid, from their Facebook page. I found this very informative. I said, oh, I'm gonna just copy this, right? So I want to give a shout out to them for actually having this information, these resources here. And one thing about me is I really like to make sure that people know their options, people know their resources, what resources are out there for them. If you're on my TikTok, please go over to my Facebook, my YouTube, whatever, so you can see it. But basically here they have a list of different phone numbers, a list of different options, whether it be the income-based payment, the pay as you earn, the extended forbearance, right? A lot of the times people will try and bootstrap it or figure it out, or they are fearful, so they don't go and search for answers or search for resources. And I want you to move beyond that. I want to help you to overcome that, because there are resources out there, and sometimes it's just a phone number to call or a little bit of paperwork to fill out, and then you don't have to worry about this payment, right? And if we can put it in a place where even if you do have student loans or you do have a goal to pay it off, okay, well, let's come up with a strategy where we are consistently contributing to, let's say, a high yield savings account. It's your student loan repayment fund and allow that money to grow over time. And then we make one large payment and pay off your student loans, or we chunk it up into 2 or 3 or 4 larger payments, and then we do it that way, rather than having this monthly draft. That's money that we could be investing, that we could be saving, that could actually be earning for us, rather than going into what I consider this just black pit, right? So right here at the bottom is phone numbers that you can call, depending on who is your servicer or provider. Now, this is for federal student loans. This right here is for private student loans. Now, private student loans is a case-by-case basis. It is very unique. I am not a private student loans expert. I have no expertise in the matter. Please don't ask me no questions about that. I do not know. Matter of fact, this visual that we're seeing right here on the screen is from Lind EDU. I have no affiliation with Lind EDU or federal student loan, nothing. Private loan, nothing. I don't have no association with them, don't represent them, not pushing them. But I did find this very informative, right? So this is a great visual, because sometimes people don't realize, oh, I actually have more than one loan, and I have an opportunity to, instead of paying more than one payment, and oftentimes at different interest rates, higher rates also, and different loan repayment periods, meaning some of them I might be done in a few years, some of them are 10 years, 20 years out, right? So rather than having all that disparity and all these different payments going every which way, being able to refinance or consolidate those loans, which I believe this company does do. Again, I'm not promoting for them, don't have no affiliation with them, but that is a really great strategy when it comes to student loans, when it comes to these bigger loan payments, making sure that you can have a handle on, how do I actually pay for this kind of stuff, right? How can I make sense of this? That's the biggest thing, right? Feeling confident, feeling like I understand what's going on with my money, feeling like it's not just going out the window, going out the door every time I get paid, all these companies standing there with their hands out ready to get a piece of my check that I would just work 40 hours for. Rather than feeling like that, actually feeling like, you know what, yes, I have to make this payment, but I'm seeing the progress. I'm seeing it being chipped away, right? So that's a huge opportunity. Again, look into this. The reason why I'm showing this is for information. I want you to investigate this for yourself. Next, let's talk about credit cards. Hold on one second. Let me get some more. Because you know I'm a yapper. Let's talk about credit cards. So credit card debt is at an all-time high, guys. Average credit card debt is well over $90,000 for each American. Some people are well higher than that. Some people are much lower than that. There are people, especially, you know, something that really grinds my gears, and please, no offense if you are this person, but Disney adults, when you see a Disney adult, I want you to think debt. Okay, a lot of times, unless they being invited out on the PR trips where everything is paid for, that people, you know, when you see people flexing, a lot of traveling, flashy stuff, flashy cars, right? All this stuff, I want you to see debt. Debt is at an all-time high. Credit card companies are making it way easier to get approved. They're sending you stuff in the mail, to your email. They have it on every website. They have it on the advertisements, right? They are constantly inundating you with more and more marketing that leads you to believe we are just willing as a company to give you all of this money and all of these perks. But what they don't tell you is that they're going to make it incredibly hard for you to get out. Okay. They want you to come in and close the door behind you, right? Credit cards will offer you the 0% interest or the very low interest in the beginning, and then they'll start to hike it up on you later. These are the types of fine print things that you need to read. One thing my broker in my business said to me years ago that has stuck with me, and I will always tell people, is that the big print giveth and the small print taketh away. You have to be willing to read that small print. Another thing that's often in the small print is the punitive fees or late fees or overdraft fees and not realizing, oh, I just missed my credit card payment one time. Oh, I'm just getting hit with that little $30 fee. Does it suck? Yeah, but okay, I can deal with $30. But then you don't realize, because oftentimes most people don't go check what is my credit card interest rate. And they also don't often put it on the statement because it is variable, meaning it can change. So they tell you, well, we can't put it on the statement because what if it changes, right? So they purposefully don't show it. And what you don't find out till later is, oh, I thought my interest rate was only 28%. Lo and behold, I missed one payment or I got one overdraft fee. Now it's 32%. Right? So it's very important to make sure that you understand that credit card companies are in the business of, yes, loaning you out money, but mostly to get you into a debt cycle. That is their goal, to get you hooked. They want to be like your crack dealer, okay? They want you to get hooked. Credit card perks and points are purposefully used to get you to spend more money. Woo, please don't get me started on the travel perks and points. Now listen, it's some people who play the travel points game and they're very good at it. And I'm not knocking you. Baby, if you are able to get the 10,000, 20,000, 100,000 points and get the 15th flight free, okay. I love it for you, okay? If you're able to work with other people and y'all all utilize the points and now y'all got the free family trip, okay. I'm not mad at it, okay? But I want you to realize, what I want you to just acknowledge is that you have to swipe a whole bunch of times to get them points, right? And you might be saying, well, I'm gonna just swipe the card anyway, so I might as well to get the points. Okay, yeah. But in order for you to get there, you have to spend more money. And that's exactly where they want you, right? And for me, I don't know if it works for y'all, but for me, psychologically, I am so like anti, so I'm just like, I don't want to do what they want me to do, right? So it's like, if they are trying to get you to do that, that is something I think you should just reflect on, right? And then lastly, last point on here, the buy now, pay later offers you an extension of credit with no interest to get you stuck in their trap, right? Again, like I said, they are making you, they're dangling the nice, pretty, shiny thing right here in front of your face and getting you all excited, getting you in the door. And then it might work out the first few times, right? Okay, yeah, I did the buy now, pay later. I did the Klarna, I did the Affirm, and I got me, a new haul, or I got something that I really needed for the house. I don't know, right? It could have been something essential that you really just needed to do the Affirm for. Okay. But I want you to know, yeah, it worked out that one time, but they send you that notification. Don't let you have the app. They sending you notifications every time you checking out somewhere. They're like, hey, just to let you know, you could pay this $100 or you could pay $17 right now and then it's 0% interest. And you're like, oh yeah, why wouldn't I do that? They're dangling it right in front of you. They're dangling the shiny thing right in front of you, and they're trying to get you in the door so that you can get trapped. And the reason why I'm telling you this is not to tell you not to do it, but to bring light to it so that you're paying attention, okay? Next, credit card hacks. Have a purpose for the credit card and strict rules and boundaries around utilizing it. That's so important, guys. I have talked to a lot of people that sometimes and I ask them, well, why did you get this credit card? And they're like, I don't know. Because I just thought I was supposed to get a credit card because I thought that's what I was supposed to do, right? I just was told to get a credit card. Or some people might say, oh, I was told to build credit, so I just had to get a credit card. Or sometimes it's a circumstance, like something was happening in that moment and I needed to get approved at that moment. So I got the credit card and now I just have it, right? But I want you to actually spend time thinking about, what is the purpose for me to have this credit card? It shouldn't just be that I can spend on it for whatever I want, whenever I want, because that even listen to how that sounds. I could just use my credit card whenever I want, whenever I want, because I can. No, right? Come up with some boundaries, some rules and guess what? You're the one who gets to say it. I'm not telling you what to do. Maybe you say, you know what? Maybe you are a points person and you say, you know what, I'm going to make sure I only use this credit card for gas and groceries and whatever other points thing that they be, restaurants, right? Because they always do the restaurants, right? The gas, the grocery, and restaurants. And outside of that, I'm not using this card, and I'm doing it so that I can get the points, so that I can get some for free. Okay, that is a rule, that is a boundary, and now we have some stipulations around when and why we're using this card. But if you walk into it and just say, well, I'm just going to use this card whenever I can, or be on the opposite end and you say, well, I got the credit card, but I'm so scared, I'm going to just leave it in the drawer and I'm never going to look at it, I'm never going to touch it, and I'm never going to use it. That's not how credit cards work either, sadly, right? That strategy doesn't work either, because they want you to use it. Again, it's that double whammy where it's like, 6, 7. Okay. They want you to use it where they're telling you, like, yes, use the credit card to build credit, but don't use it too much. Make sure you pay it off every month, and don't use too much credit, because then it's a problem, right? And don't miss a payment, right? So whatever, right? But I just want to encourage you, take time, sit down, write it out, type it out, put it in your notes. Even if it's just you recording, you talking out loud, right? Think through it. Actually document it. Don't just say whatever, right? Next bullet point here. Pay half of the minimum payment before the statement date and the other half before the due date. I forget where I heard this strategy once. I believe it was on TikTok, but basically the premise behind this is when it comes to credit card, credit reporting, credit scores, all the things, which, guys, I am not a credit expert. There are plenty of credit experts out there. I actually have a couple really good relationships with some credit experts. So if you are looking for one, please let me know. I can point you in the right direction. I am not a credit expert. But one thing I do know is that when it comes to credit reporting and credit tracking, is there are typically a few times out of the month that they are actually looking at what are your current balances across the board. And that's when they report it to the big agencies, the Experian, TransUnion, and whatever's the third one. I forgot. What's the third one? Whatever's the third one. But so in order to kind of beat the system, play the game, it's a really good strategy. Let's say my monthly payment for my card is $50, right? And my due date is the 15th of every month. I would pay $25 on the 7th, and I pay the other $25 on the 14th, right? Because then it's showing that I have a lower balance by the time they're printing out the statement. And it's also giving me an extra boost in my credit reporting and my numbers and all the little things, right? So that's just a little tip of the trade that I've learned along the way that I'd like to share. Another one that I think a lot of people have heard before, but I want to give you a little twist on it. A lot of people have heard of the don't use more than 30% of your credit card utilization. So what I mean by that is, again, let's say for simple numbers, you have a credit card with a line of credit access of $1,000, and people will say, okay, don't use more than 30%. So meaning don't use more than $300, or if you do, pay it down, pay it off. And the reason why is because when it comes to credit reporting, they'll tell you, oh, if you use too much of your credit, which again is such a crazy like mind warp of a game, right? Because they're like, yeah, we'll give it to you, but if you use all of it, then we don't like you. So it's like, okay, fine. So just use a little bit of it. But the point I want to make with this bullet point is the end across all cards. So what I mean by that is, let's say you have that one card that's $1,000 and the most that I can use on it is 30%, which actually right here it says 25%. And the reason why it says 25%, because most of the time when people try to do 30, they end up going beyond it. I know from personal experience, I know in working with my clients. So if you shoot for 25, if you go beyond that 25% utilization, so if I shoot for 250 and I end up actually using my credit card and I ended up using 265 for the month, okay, I'm still below the 30% threshold, if that makes sense, right? So 25% is my little tip, trick of the trade, right? So But again, back to the point I was saying earlier, let's say you have $1,000 on one credit card. Okay, most I can use for that is $250. But you might say, oh, $250, that's not a lot. I need more access to credit. So then you apply for another credit card. And now I have two credit cards with $1,000 limit. And now I have access to 500 because I have 250 accessible on each card, if that makes sense, right? So as long as you're keeping each card below that 25% credit utilization, and this applies to business credit and personal credit as well, because both of them are reflecting on the credit reporting and all the things, right? So that's a really great strategy, and I want to give you that. But again, that is not a reason for you to go out and get 4 and 5 and 6 and 7 and 8 credit cards. Because I've seen some people before will say, oh, I got 5, 6 credit cards. And I'm like, well, why? And they're like, well, because I just wanted to have access to a whole bunch of credit. And it's like, for what? Well, I don't know, because I wanted to. Why? like again, have a purpose, have a reason, right? If I already have that $1,000 and I'm doing good, managing my little $250, less than $250 a month for my credit card, then why do I need my bestie call? I'm gonna call her back. Then why do I need to apply for another credit card? If you don't need to apply for another credit card, don't. I'm not telling you to go out and go get a whole bunch of credit cards, but if you do need more access than that 25%, that might be a reason for you to get more than one. And lastly, if you need to build credit, and this may be the first time you never had a credit card before, I would suggest using a secured credit card and put a small subscription payment on it. So I have used Self before. I really love Self. Again, I am not affiliated with Self. Don't promote them. Don't get paid to promote them. I don't got nothing to do with them. But I am a personal user of it. Love it. I have told other people about it. So I think it's great. And that is one offer to do a secured credit card. Maybe it's your first time having a credit card. And again, I am playing that game where they tell me, oh, you have to get credit, but they don't tell you what to do or what to spend on, right? They tell you need it, but don't tell you how to use it. So here's what my recommendation would be. Take $200, $300, and either, also credit unions are really great at offering secured credit cards. Maybe go to your local credit union, get a secured credit card. Now, and what a secured credit card is, for example, I took my $300 there. Now I have a $300 secured credit card. I can't spend more than the $300 that I took in there. Right? So even if, let's say, I use the card 1 month, I spend $270 on the card, pay it off. Next time I use the card, I still have that next month, I have a $300 credit limit, if that makes sense. So that's how a secured credit card works. A great way, if it's the first time you're paying credit, don't know what to do, great starting point. And put a small subscription on it. So maybe you have, for example, Apple Music or your music subscription, or a small streaming subscription, or a gym payment, or something small, maybe less than $50 a month. Keep it affordable. But it's a little fly in here that keeps flying around. If y'all keep seeing me wave my hand, it's because this little fly is literally, it's been killing me all day, but I'm gonna get them. It's fine. Completely distracting me. Small subscription payment on that card, okay? Because then something you can handle. That's the point. Something you can handle, and something that for sure, without a doubt, I could pay it off every month. I'm talking $9, $10, right? Something very affordable, because what it shows is I have good utilization, good history with the card. I can pay my card on time, and that's how you build slowly but surely, okay? Really great for my young people. Next, let's talk about debt that's in collections, because sometimes it be stuff in collections, honey, and that's okay. Okay, it's okay. First of all, I want to normalize that is okay. A lot of people have stuff in collections right now. Don't be ashamed. And I really don't want you to be ashamed, because in recent years, as recent as the last 2 to 3 years, there have been new credit reporting laws, and collection agency laws and regulations on things that you can do to get these things removed or forgiven, or get them removed. Okay, so please don't feel any type of way about that. Very important that you understand that you have options. Okay, when it comes to debt that's in collections, don't be upfront about it. Okay, and invest. And again, I talked earlier about going into an avoidance space. Sometimes we see that we know it exists, right? We know that we had that utility bill from that one apartment that we lived at that we never paid, and we left, and it's like, oh yeah, I did have that one bill, but I ain't really looking at it. First of all, been there. Okay, second of all, we have to get to a point where we forgive ourselves, understand we did the best with the information that we had at the time, or the resources that we had at the time, and we have to come up with a plan to move forward, right? So let's talk about what kind of debts can even be in collections. Credit card balances, obviously, if you get a card that has been charged off, closed off, meaning I haven't paid the balance. And I believe when I was looking at it, it might even say it right here or on my next slide, it's like 120 or 180 days. So even with that, you have a window of time. Sometimes people get really anxious and scared after that 30-day window has passed. Reach out to your company. Most of the time they have a program, a hardship program, a relief program, something that they can offer you to help you. So I say that because a lot of times people get very worked up, and rightfully so, right? It could be scary. You getting all these calls from bill collectors. You're like, oh my God, they calling me and it's always the worst time, ain't it? The worst time that they call, the time where I just have gone through something or just paid a bill, and now, oh my God, I got to pay another bill, right? So whatever. But if you have a charged off card, and I believe I'm going to talk about it on the next slide, so I'm going to hold off on how to get things removed. Student loans, again, that's a whole nother category. I already talked about student loans. We ain't going to do that here. If your car has been repossessed, also, if you find yourself in a situation such as that, please reach out to me, because I have a legal resource that I can refer to you that can really help with that type of situation. But that's the type of thing that can definitely show up in collections if you allow it to get to that point. Personal loans, utility bills, like I said, had that bill of the apartment, left, pretended like I forgot about it, but I really didn't forget about it. Yeah, it's still connected to you. Don't worry, they didn't forget. You might have pretended like you forgot, but they didn't forget. Okay. Bank fees and overdraft fees, fines and fees imposed by the courts, unpaid tuition, late rent payment, and medical bills. Medical bills is definitely one that I want to highlight, because medical debt, that's definitely one that gives people a lot of anxiety and fear and stress. That's definitely one that they can be hounding you with the calls. Okay. So I want to bring your attention over here to this other side of the screen. First of all, rule out the scams. Okay. There's a lot of scams out there. Unfortunately, scammers are getting very elaborate, and with the AI and all the different things. So first of all, make sure it's legit. Okay, there are resources. You can see some of them right there. There are resources and ways that you can confirm your debt, rule out the scams, make sure it's actually your debt. Ask them to send you a debt validation letter. That is actually one of the ways that you can get debt removed from your credit report or your profile, so to speak, by asking them to send you a debt validation letter. Because if it's in collections and the original company that charged you that debt, they don't have that paperwork. And if they do, then there's still other steps that you could go through. Next, make a payoff plan. Again, a lot of these companies sometimes will offer you a program, right? They want to work with you. They want to negotiate with you. They want to get as much as they can. Even sometimes you might be able to negotiate with them and work out. You don't have to make the full payment. Maybe it's a partial payment, right? But again, I want to just impress upon you. A lot of times we get in that avoidance space, and I know from experience, okay, it can be scary. It can be overwhelming, and you're just thinking about, I just got to work. I just got to pay bills. I just got to live life for today, right? And I get that. but the more you avoid it, it's not going to go away, right? So make a plan and then consider settlement. So again, sometimes they will settle with you and settle for your debt for less than you owe, right? So oh, and hold on. There's also nonprofit credit counseling services. So please look into the resources around you. There are nonprofits that offer resources such as this. So again, you are not by yourself, and we are really going to make sure we hit that point home towards the end of this. Now, this visual is from The Balance. I found their article is very helpful and resourceful. I believe they are a debt resource companies. I, again, am not affiliated with them, don't get paid by them, am not promoting their services, but I did find there are a couple articles on debt very helpful, and I believe that they do have resources out there. So tips for removing debt collections from your credit report: dispute what's not your collection. This is especially impactful and important if let me watch my words. If your parent has ever put something in your name, or a guardian has ever taken something out in your name and it is showing up on your collections, there is a way for you to dispute and discharge and get this removed from your credit report. So please investigate that. I know that family dynamics can be tricky. It can be a lot, okay? And I'm not trying to open that emotional can of worms right there, but when it comes to your money and what's showing up on your credit report, if somebody has opened something in your name in the past, because unfortunately, this is something parents used to do. Hopefully they're not doing it anymore. I think there are a lot of laws and regulations that prevent parents from doing that now, but in the past, this was definitely a thing. I know a lot of millennials have that's unfortunately, right? So, okay. Also, a dispute after 7 years, there are a lot of things that will fall off over time. So if you are to a point where it's about to fall off, don't worry about it. Or let me say this: if you are closer towards that 7-year timeline where you might be closer to the point where it's going to fall off, maybe it does not make sense for you to worry about trying to pay it off if it's about to just fall off anyway. Okay. Or trying to dispute it also when it comes to like a charge off. Okay. Also, dispute when collectors sell. So one thing that happens when it comes to collections is that they will collections companies will sell your debt, your package, to another collection company, or the original company will sell it to a collections company. And when that happens, you have the right to dispute that charge and get it removed off your credit report. Again, there are a lot of change in rules and regulations, so I want you to investigate that. Pay for deletion. I think I don't know about that one. There's a lot of free resources out there, so I'm gonna say a caveat with that one. There's a lot of free resources that you can do. And even there's a lot of people on the internet and companies that will be like, pay and we'll just do it for you. Now, if you don't have the time or the emotional capacity, the energy to be able to do it for yourself, okay, maybe it's in your best interest to allow a company to do it for you. But most of what you need to do is literally just writing a letter to the company and being diligent about mailing and tracking receiving of the mail. So it's not hard. You can do this for free. So I want to just put a caveat there. As for a goodwill deletion, you would be surprised. You would be surprised if you call these companies and let them know your situation, and they might just take it off. Let them know, hey, I'm going for something. I'm trying to get a house. I'm trying to get a business loan, whatever, right? You will be surprised. Sometimes they just forgive it. A goodwill deletion. And if you're not able to get a collections account removed from your credit report, pay it anyway. Again, I'm gonna put a little asterisk next to that little caveat. Sometimes it makes sense, sometimes it doesn't. I think it makes sense to work through it, think through it, maybe talk to a money coach like myself, talk to a debt strategist, a debt expert, because it's definitely a case-by-case basis. Also, another one that I found interesting: 6 things that have no bearing on when collections will fall off. So a lot of times, again, people will say, oh, well, I'm just going to wait for those years to pass for this to fall off of my credit report. But they don't realize that even if it falls off your credit report, these things right here are still sticking with your profile. So they can still see when they're pulling up, oh, is this person credit worthy? Is this person qualified for this loan? Can they be approved for this or that? Right. Then I think it is then you will just pay attention to these 6 things: previous late payments, activity on the collection, the date the account was settled, the date the account was open, the date the collection agency took over the account, and the date the account was closed. So just pay attention to those things. Okay, next. Utility bills that are in collections. Again, I have personal experience with this. I actually made this for my clients and sent this to them I do quarterly check-ins with my clients, and I recently sent this to them, and I hope they found this valuable. But basically, this is a money hack for if your utility bill is skyrocketing or if you have it in collections. So we're seeing 62 to 64% of Americans have seen an increase in their utility bills over the past year. A lot of people can probably relate to that. It's like 1 month my bill was like $100 something. Now my bill is like $200, $600, $700, $800. I've seen some people talk about $1,000 bill. That's outrageous to even think about. The data suggests it will keep increasing. Unfortunately, we got all these data centers going up. We got unregulated monopolies going on, right? Don't get me on my soapbox because y'all, we be here for another couple hours of me talking about everything that I find wrong with that situation. But basically, here is what we should do. So because we know that gas and electric are essential, most providers will offer you a budget billing or reduced payment program for their members facing hardship. Now, if you are not already enrolled in this program, this is where I'm going to tell you, set your pride aside, put it in your pocket. This is the time for you to reach out for help. This is the time for you to call these companies and say, hey, this is what I'm dealing with. What can you do for me? Okay, because you pay this bill all this time. You funding their company. What can they do for you? Right? So ask them to put you onto budget billing. Ask them if they have a resource. And here's why budget billing helps. Because your bill will be somewhat more predictable, hopefully. Now, I have heard some people get on budget billing and sometimes their bill still is variable, is still up and down and not predictable, but hopefully it's going to put it in a more predictable space, and predictability is better for your budgeting, right? Because how am I going to budget if 1 month my bill is $100 and the next month my bill is $700? That will definitely throw a wrench in my budget. So predictability is better. 2, you can pay something which is better than nothing and keep the services on. Sometimes people will get to a point, again, it comes from avoidance. It comes from a place of, I just have to work and all I know what to do is to keep going. And I'm just, in a place of stress. So they avoid the situation. And I really get that. But, I want you to have a mind frame of paying something is better than paying nothing. And they legally cannot turn off your services if you are paying something. So getting on that budget billing will allow them to not cut off their services on you. Also, the excess money that you were previously paying towards that variable bill can now be put in the savings and utilize a high yield savings for the extra compound. Right. So now let's say, the past couple months, your bill has been $300, right? It's been going up and down. It's been crazy. I've been suffering and I've been, doing what I can to pay it. But now I'm on the budget billing. Now my bill is $150 a month. Great. Now with that other $150 that you were previously putting towards the bill, I want you to put that in a high yield savings account. Don't skip the savings part. That is very important. This strategy works best if you save at the same time as you're on budget billing. Utilizing the compound savings from the high yield savings account so you can grow your money. Then the ultimate goal is that later you can make one large payment and catch up on the bill. So yes, we are going on budget billing, but we're not going to stay there. I don't want to keep you there, right? We want to eventually get to a place where we get caught up on the bill, and hopefully the powers that be will regulate and will have more, affordable bills in general, right? And prayerfully so. but we have no control over that, right? So what the things we do have control over are, I can get my bill to a predictable place. I can save the extra money that I was previously paying towards this. And because what happens most of the time, let's say we get that budget billing, now we got that extra $150. We say, oh, well, yes, it was previously going towards my BG&E, but now I want crab legs. Now I want to go out this weekend. Now my baby needs summer clothes, so this money has purpose somewhere else. No, no, no. If you get on that budget billing, I want you to be diligent and take that other little chunk of money, even if it's just $10, $20, whatever it is, put that into a separate, specifically designated high yield savings account. And then at some point later in the year, or maybe it's not even this year, maybe it's next year, maybe we're on budget billing for a year and a half, whatever. But at some point in the future, we can make a larger payment so that we can start to catch up. Okay. And please reach out to me if you need assistance with this. I can totally help you out with setting up this account, because like what I'm saying is not hard, right? Like I think we can all agree that this makes sense. It's straightforward. It's not hard to do, but who has the time to sit there, think through the numbers, plan all of this out? Sometimes just life is just go, 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 right? So the point in meeting with me and why my meetings are free is because we have a scheduled time on your calendar where we sit down and we do the things that you said you wanted to do. And this is one of the things that can really help you and can help you get caught up on the bill, or can help you to have more predictability in your bills. And I would love to be the person that just helps you get the ball rolling and get started on this. Even if we just set up the account and we don't put no money in it yet, but we set it up, okay, let's do that, right? But let's get started somewhere. Next, some people get to a place where they're like, all right, my debt is just to a point where it's too high, it's unmanageable. I got too many things going, too many different directions. My debt to income ratio is too heavy on the debt side. I'm not making enough money. I'm going to need to consolidate debt. Now, this is actually from, I have my citation down here on the bottom, from Upwise Capital. Again, not associated with that company. Don't know nothing about them, not promoting them, not being paid by them. And actually, this specific graphic in the article that I was reading from was about business consolidation loans, which is what I think they actually specialize in. However, I believe that this also can apply to your personal debts, and also for your personal debt consolidation consideration, right? Like, when does it make sense for me to consolidate? And I think you can also go along this same thought path if you are considering bankruptcy, right? Because sometimes people get to a point and they feel like, well, should I just consider bankruptcy and wipe the slate clean and just start over? Sometimes there are some other steps or other things that we can consider before we get there, right? And debt consolidation might be one of those things. The pit stop before you get to bankruptcy, so to speak. But here are some questions. Here are some just things that you want to consider. First of all, when you're managing multiple debts, right? So again, if you have multiple debts going every which way, and it's feeling like, especially if you have more than one draft payment every month, right? You got to draft the 1st, the 7th, the 15th, the 28th, the 21st, and you feeling like, oh my God, it's too much to keep up with. This is a way to simplify it, get all one payment, one interest rate. It simplifies it. You can secure a lower interest rate. So again, rather than multiple cards, multiple payments, variable interest rates that go up and down, especially when we talk about credit cards be up to 29, 30. I've seen a credit card 33%. That's crazy. 33% is crazy. So if you're at that point where you have multiple 30-some% cards, it might just make sense to consolidate so that you can get a lower interest rate and be able to have a way to pay that off more quickly. Also, not more quickly, but what I mean by that is that the debt is not growing faster than you're paying it down. if that makes sense. Imagine you're digging yourself out of a hole and somebody keep throwing dirt on your head while you're digging yourself out the hole. That will make it really hard to get out the hole, right? So when you are lowering your interest rate, you're slowing down that person who's throwing down the dirt on your head so you can dig out faster. Okay, if that makes sense. Next, you need to improve your cash flow. Okay, so obviously, when you have a lot of debt payments, that's reducing the amount of money that you have access to do other things in your life, right? So being able to consolidate your loans will be able to give you an opportunity to have more flexibility in your money and have more money to do more things with, particularly like saving and investing, building up an emergency savings account. That will probably be the highest priority. And then also your credit has improved, right? So when you got this credit card or got approved for this, your credit score was lower or you had more things going on. And since then you have paid down some things, paid off some things. Maybe you disputed some stuff and removed some stuff off of your credit report. That might be a good opportunity for you to now do a debt consolidation loan, because now I could get approved for a rate that is much better and reflective of my current situation and not the situation I was in at that point when I first got it. So that is when it makes sense according to Upwise. I found this quite helpful. Now, I also found this interesting when to reconsider, right? Because again, like I was saying earlier, I think sometimes people's minds immediately just go to, oh, let me just wipe the slate clean. Let me just go ahead and get this consolidation loan, or let me just go ahead and file for bankruptcy, when actually there might be some other steps or other habits that we need to look at and consider to prevent us from getting right back into the same situation. So first, here is when you should definitely reconsider consolidation. If it increases your total cost, so fees, interest, and extended terms can result to higher overall costs. Always calculate the total cost before proceeding. So one thing to, again, when I was talking about debt earlier, right, to how should I think about debt in my mind? Another great way to think about debt is, how long will I have to carry this payment on my back, right? And the longer you have to carry it on your back, the heavier it's getting, meaning the more the interest is accruing. So if you do a consolidation loan on, let's say you have a whole bunch of credit cards or credit loans out there, some of them you're not supposed to be paid off on them for the next 10 or 20 years, but some of them you are supposed to be paid off in a year or two. Now, if you do a consolidation, you're restarting the clock on some of those other loans that you were close to the finish line. And it's now we're restarting, and it's like, why would we do that? That doesn't make sense, because now we're carrying it for longer. We're making that interest, we're extending that interest out longer, right? So in that case, it might make sense for you to pay off those ones that are within the 1 or 2 year to the finish line, and then refinance for those longer term ones. Also, if it's a Band-Aid solution, addresses symptoms, not underlying spending or cash flow issues. Accumulating debt after consolidating can lead to a worse position. Again, it's so important to look at what are the habits, what are the things that actually got me here. And we're going to talk about that in a second, like really kind of some journal prompts or some self-reflection points that I want to give you to ask yourself, like, how did I even get to the point where I am considering consolidating or I am considering a bankruptcy? Because if you are just going to keep the same habits, you're going to end up doing 2 and 3 and 4 bankruptcies. And I've seen it before, okay? And I've seen it with people I love dearly, right? So, and it's not a shame to them, but what it is a indicator of is, I saw this as a Band-Aid solution, but I did not change my habits. I did not change my spending. I did not change my cash flow issue, which again, if you're going for loans for credit, it means I didn't have the money accessible in that moment. So it might mean we need to increase our cash flow and stop trying to access credit, right? So it's very important to consider those things before just going for a band-aid solution. And then this is kind of what I was just saying earlier. If you're close to paying off the end of the repayment, then sometimes it just doesn't make sense to start over. You might as well, or also there are options where you can do a loan consolidation on some of them, but not all of them, right? So that's also an option. Okay. Next, debt elimination strategies, right? So there are typically two different popular approaches when it comes to paying down debt, paying off debt. Some of them you might have heard of before. They are the debt avalanche strategy and the debt snowball strategy. And I am going to tell you the difference between them. So, debt avalanche. Why is it called avalanche? Well, because it prioritizes the highest interest rate debt first. Again, the things like the credit cards, the 30% interest rate ones, it's going to prioritize those first because that is like the biggest leak in your boat, right? It's the biggest hole bringing in the most water into your boat that is sinking. So if I could plug the biggest hole first, then it makes it a bit easier for me to scoop this water out and not have to drown. So it prioritizes the interest rate. It pays off the debt with the highest interest rate first. Then you move on to the next highest interest rate debt after the first one is paid off. You pay less interest over time. So just like an avalanche starts small, right? The avalanche typically starts with like a little small pebble and then it rolls, and then it's like boom, and it's like crashing down and destruction, right? So avalanche starts small with, just like, for example, your minimum payments. And maybe I only have an extra $50 in there that I could squeeze in to pay towards my debt elimination. But eventually, after you pay off the credit card, the key is to not accumulate more debt while we're trying to pay off the debt. That is a huge point people miss. And I'm not saying don't use the credit card again. But what I'm saying is, if we just went through all this trouble of paying down your credit card from a balance that was very high, don't go out there and rack it back up. Only use it to that 25% or maybe even less. If we just came back from paying down a huge balance, you probably don't even want to go 25%. You maybe even want to go 15% utilization. So out of that $1,000 credit limit, maybe you only do $150 because you want to err on the side of, I do not want to get myself back into the same situation that I was just in, right? But most of the time, the reason why debt avalanche strategy doesn't work out for people because they pay off the highest interest bearing debts first and then they get right back into debt. They don't realize that, okay, let's say my payment was $80 a month. That $80 a month, once I'm done paying my credit card down, that $80 now combined with the $50 that I was throwing in there every once in a while when I had it, now I got $130. Is that right? Yeah. What? Is that right? 130. Yeah, $130 a month that I am paying towards the next debt, right? When previously maybe I was only paying $50. So now I'm paying the $50 and $130 that I was paying from the previous card. Now I got $180 a month that I'm paying on credit card 2, and now I'm chipping away at credit card 2 even faster. And again, it goes faster and faster until it's a big avalanche. And now I'm making my largest monthly payment on my largest balance debt. Let's talk about debt snowball. Debt snowball is the opposite. It prioritizes the balances. So what that means is it pays off the smallest debt first because it wants to build momentum. This one is especially good for people who want to build financial confidence. They want to be able to see, I'm knocking away that smallest balance, I'm clearing it out, and I'm on to the next one. I need to see some wins within the next quarter, within the next 1 to 3 months, right? I need to see some positivity. That's when debt snowball really works. Or also if you just have a whole bunch of small debt balances, like maybe my debt is less than 5,000, less than 10,000, less than 1,000, debt snowball might work for you. Basically, you pay off the smallest balance first, then you move on to the next one. It builds motivation and settling debts faster, right? So again, with both strategies, you have to prioritize. Once I pay off one card, one balance, I'm not racking that balance back up. Or if I use the card, I'm paying it off that month. Okay. Now, debt freedom fund. This is really important. I think this is, again, something very underrated when we talk about paying down debt or eliminating debt. This is a strategy that I want to give you guys that you can use to pay down your debt every month. And it's just 8 steps. Well, technically it's 7 steps and a bonus. So let me talk about it. Step 1, analyze all your debts and list them out in detail. So what I mean by in detail is I want you to list the balance. And this is actually what I do with my clients. So if this is something that you feel like I want to do with somebody or with a money coach, reach out to me. I do this for free with my clients. List out first of all, the name of the person, the lender, right? The name of the lender, the total balance due, the interest rate, the minimum payment. If I pay anything over the minimum payment, so for example, my monthly bill is $48, but I pay $50 and I just round it up. So I pay $50. So those $2 extra, that would be in that category, right? So it would be $48 is the minimum payment, $2 is the additional payment I pay over the minimum. And then whether it's fixed or revolving, which is we talked about earlier, or installment or revolving, same difference. And then that's everything that I need to know. So listing out all your debts, which again, most people, they know they have debt. Maybe they're tracking it in an app. I know Rocket Money is good for it. I know Credit Karma is good for it, right? They can go in there and see their little credit profile and it lets you know all your total debt. But I want you to have a detailed picture of what your debt picture looks like, right? So including all those numbers that I just said. Then you want to determine the minimum monthly payment amounts for all your debts. So that, I think it was like the third category that I listed. That's when you want to add it up. Okay, so for my credit card, the minimum every month is $48. For my mortgage, the minimum every month is $1,700. For my car, my car loan, my payment every month is $420. And for my student loans, my payment every month is $100. So then I'm adding all that up. Okay, those are all my minimums. Right. So now I have a very clean visual, and I definitely recommend doing it in an Excel or a Google Sheet, right? So you can see it in the little charts and the little cells and being able to lay out, okay, this is all my debts. This is all my minimums. Then I want you to open a new bank account, a new separate account. If you have a credit union, or a regular commercial bank savings account, both of them are typically pretty good at allowing you to open more than one account, or you can even open an online bank account, a PayPal, anything, right? But I want it to be a separate account. And particularly, I would recommend utilizing a high-yield savings account, okay? And I want you to label it Debt Freedom Fund. That labeling it is very important. Maybe you don't choose those exact words, but I want you to frame it something positive, something centered around freedom, something centered around paying it off. Maybe you include in there the due date of when you will pay it off. But from a psychological standpoint, it's very important that you name this account properly because because basically it helps you from a psychological standpoint to fund the account when you're doing it, make you feel good about it, like release good endorphins in your mind, make you feel like you're positively impacting your finances. So from a psychological standpoint, it's a really good idea to not just, and a lot of accounts will allow you to put a name on it. So name it. Then add the total minimum monthly amount to this new bank account, right? So this might take more than one check. I know number 4 sounds like really simple, and but let's say if you added up all your minimums, your total minimums every month is $2,500. So out of each check, you take $250 and add it into this new debt freedom fund until you get to what is my total monthly minimum payments for the month. Okay. So it might take time to do it, but eventually you want to add up the total. You want to add into the account the total minimum that you need. Then you want to change your debt payments to draft from that new account. So our goal is to have it draft directly from there rather than it draft from like your checking account. Now our goal is to get the checking account to a point where it's all just my spending money, my free money. I'm just doing, different things, or maybe I'm paying my monthly bills or expenses, whatever, right? But we're not keeping debt in there. Also, from a psychological standpoint, it allows you when you're spending and when you're having fun, or when you are doing impulsive spending, because that just does happen sometimes, you're not worried about, am I spending the money that's meant to go towards my debt? No, because it's over here in this other account. If possible, change the draft dates to align with your monthly payment frequency. So what I mean by that is a lot of banks or institutions will allow you to reach out and change your date of when your payment drafts. If you can get it down to 1 or 2 payments a month, that is ideal. Again, for predictability, for budgeting. The more we can predict, the more frequency, the better, right? So basically you want to align it. Let's say I know I get paid the 1st and the 15th, or I get paid every 2 weeks. Okay, I want to align my draft payments to be the 7th and the 17th. So I know by the time those dates come, the money will be in those accounts. And then the bonus is add extra funds. That's supposed to say when you can, and make additional payments on a quarterly or annual basis. So especially this works out when you are making extra payments towards a car or a house, making those additional annual payments. You would be surprised how that really chips away at how many years you carry the debt. Right? Like there are calculators out there that literally, if I make one additional, like let's say your mortgage every month is $1,700, you pay $1,700 for all 12 months. And then at the end of the year, I make one additional $1,700 payment. You will be surprised how that can bring it down from, instead of originally it was laid out that I was supposed to pay this mortgage off by 30 years. Now I'm paying it off by 27 years. 27, now 3 years might not seem like a lot, right? It's still 20-some years away, but hey, you would be surprised how much more quickly, if I have extra funds, I can really chip away at this, these, especially the larger payments, in a more strategic way. So that's the Debt Freedom Fund. If you need assistance with setting that up, please let me know, because all of this, although these numbers make it sound like it's so simple, it's really not that easy to, or it's time consuming, right? To set up these accounts, change the draft dates, call the company. So even if it's us setting up a meeting so that you can literally just put me on mute, call the company and say, hey, I want to change my draft date, just to have it on the calendar, right? Please reach out to me, because that's the kind of stuff that I would love to support you in doing. Next, budgeting. Again, one thing about me as a money coach is I'm going to make you think, okay? I'm going to ask you some questions. I'm going to let you think. And I got to wrap this meeting up because I got somebody to call back. Okay. And I probably missed the whole dang game. I started earlier talking about I was supposed to be going to my fiance's baseball game, but it's okay because I'm excited to talk to you guys for Financial Literacy Awareness Month, and there's always another game. Okay, so next we're going to talk about budgeting, guys. Budgeting is really such a thing. And honestly, the word budgeting really kind of irks my nerves a little bit because it has so many connotations associated with it. And it really kind of has people have a knee-jerk reaction when we talk about budgeting. So I want to give you these prompts here on the screen. And if you're watching this, feel free to screenshot. Um, if you're watching the playback, feel free to pause and, write them down, whatever. And you don't have to report this back to me, of course, but I hope that this will allow you to go beyond just the numbers part of budgeting and really get into the why behind the budgeting. So I'm just going to breeze through these questions, and I want you to reflect on them. One, what negative connotations come up when you think of budgeting? Again, budgeting, I think most of the time people think of limitation, right? Which, next question, what limitations come to mind when you think of budgeting, right? People think it is like, I have to budget. Or even just the thought of looking at your money, the thought of looking at, I worked this whole week, slaved away at this job, and now I have to look at all these bills and I'm not making enough money. So it can bring up a lot of feelings. And I think if you don't take time to acknowledge what comes up for you, it will subconsciously prevent you from properly budgeting. So it's important to recognize what comes up. Number 3, the times that you felt you did really well tracking your money, what worked? The times that you felt most chaotic and impulsive with your money, what led to that? 2 really great questions to ask yourself, because I think a lot of times, especially when things are going well, we're moving and grooving. We don't take time. We might feel like, okay, that worked. I was able to pay all my bills this month on time. Great. But it's like you check the box and you keep going. We don't really look back on, okay, what happened that made it different from the other months where I did feel more stressed out? And then the other side of the spectrum of that is what circumstances, people, things, whatever situations happened that led me to be impulsive or feel out of control of my finances. And the reason why you want to track those things is because if you don't know either one of those things, it's hard to duplicate the good and avoid the bad if we haven't taken time to actually ask ourselves, well, what worked? What didn't work, right? Number 4, what are the things that are important to you that you want to save for? I think when it comes to budgeting, we do a lot of the shoulda, coulda, wouldas, right? Or I should be doing this, or I'm this age, I should be doing this. I'm a mother, so I should be doing that. I'm a business owner, so I should be doing that, right? And you end up shoulding all over yourself. I love that. When somebody said that to me once, I was cracking up. They said, you just should it all over yourself. Okay. So instead of shooting all over yourself, ask yourself, what is actually important to me? What are the things that actually fill my cup, that I value, that fulfill me as a human being, especially because life, corporate America, working in general can be so soul crushing and destructive to the average person. It's important to ask myself, what are the things that are actually important to me that I want to save for, that I value? Number 5, how can you better track the money that you have left over after paying bills and taking care of responsibilities? Most of the time, now some people are in the circumstance where they're just not making enough money, so they have to juggle bills. But there are also people who are in the circumstance of, I am making enough money to pay my bills and I have money left over, but then I don't know what's happening with that money. I don't know where it's going, or, it's going to things that are frivolous or bring me back no value, right? Or just things that are impulsive, things that I wanted in that moment, a desire of the moment, and not really anything for my future self. So asking yourself, how can I better track that? And that's not a one size fits all answer, right? Maybe for you, it looks like sitting down at the table and every Friday and looking at, well, what did I spend on this week? Or maybe it looks like I need to sit down with a money coach because I need somebody to hold my hand a little bit through this. Or maybe it looks like I'm sitting down with my partner because maybe my partner is really good at holding me accountable to certain things, right? So what does it actually look like? Number 6, how many accounts are you using to transfer, spend, and save money? Do you have a designated purpose for these accounts? That's a really important question to ask yourself because, again, like I was saying earlier, I think a lot of times people will just have accounts, especially credit cards, savings accounts. Like I ask people all the time, why are you saving this money? And they be like, I don't know, because I just thought I should save. Thought it'd be important to save money, right? Now, sometimes people have that one or two things that they want to save for, or just saving for retirement in general, saving for my kids in general. But I think it is much more impactful and psychologically helps you feel more positive about saving and budgeting when I have an actual goal associated with that account or a reason why I'm using that account. Also, when it comes to like checking accounts or direct deposit accounts, having separate accounts for this is my fund money and this is my living expenses accounts make it really easy for you to be able to dissect those funds and not have to worry about when I'm out having fun and swiping this card, am I spending my money that's supposed to be for my bills, for my groceries, right? So asking yourself, why do I have these accounts? Could I be better utilizing a account for a specific purpose? Number 7, how often are you checking on and tracking your money? I kind of already hit that point, but it's very important. And again, getting you out of that avoidance space. It took me a very long time to get there. I'm still recovering. Okay. I'm not claiming to be perfect, but it's very easy to be avoidant with your money. A lot of people can exist in the space of, as long as I swipe the card and it goes through, I'm good. And that's fine. But I want you to know it's going to eventually lead to a lot of stress. Okay. So it's much better to get on a systematic routine, whether it's weekly, monthly. Some people will do it daily. I wouldn't recommend that because that's a lot. But if you have a lot going on, maybe daily makes sense, right? Quarterly, annually, just get on some sort of routine to check and track your money. Number 8, what fills your cup and makes you feel good, and do you want your funds to go towards? I kind of already hit that point, but these are questions that I think a lot of times we don't ask ourselves when it comes to budgeting, and that's why budgeting gets such a bad rap, because we feel it limits us and forces us to spend money on things like bills and stuff that's not as exciting. But if we do focus our energy on things that fill our cup, it makes us want to track it better. What's the biggest leak or impulsive spend for you? Guys, most of the time it's a DoorDash, it's an Amazon, it's a TikTok shop. If you never look at it, you'll never overcome it. So very important for you to track, what is my biggest leak? What is my biggest impulse spend? And I want you to just accept it and acknowledge that maybe, I'm not trying to say that you're never going to have an impulsive moment. You're never going to spend frivolously, but it can get out of hand if you don't track it. So track it. And then lastly, number 10, I think this question is so important. Not only should you ask yourself this, but I think you should ask your loved ones this. What makes you feel financially safe? Such a good question. Some people feel financially safe when they can pay all their bills on time every month. Some people feel financially safe when they can check their savings account and see a certain amount in the account. Some people feel financially safe when they know that their retirement is fully funded, right? Some people feel financially safe when they know that their dependents are taken care of. Ask yourself, what makes me feel financially safe? And then how can I make sure I'm creating that for myself? That also helps us build financial confidence. Okay, guys, we're almost there. I know I'm a yapper, guys. I hope somebody's getting some value out of this. I don't know who's watching these, but hopefully somebody's loving it. I don't know. Maybe they are. Anyway, money mapping and tracking. Okay. So these are just some affirmations. I'm very big on affirmations. I actually just came up with my own budget builder for all my clients. If you are my client, I would love to share with you. If you're interested in becoming my client, would love to share with you. It is a very intensive, comprehensive Excel sheet, and it includes affirmations like some of them that you are seeing on the screen. But I want to leave you with this affirmation. And also, instead of budgeting, maybe you can, like me, call it money mapping and tracking, because that sounds a lot more fun than budgeting, right? So here's the affirmation. When I track my money, I have the freedom to say no to things that don't serve me and can map my money to fund the things I want to say yes to, and my future self will thank me for. That's good. That's good, right? Because, and here's another thing, for my people pleasers, I'm also a recovering people pleasers. Amen. We're going to overcome this together. Okay. But for my people pleasers or my impulsive people, my people who are easily peer pressured into one more drink, one more shot, let's go out, let's travel, right? Money mapping and tracking really gives you the freedom to say no. Right? Sorry, I don't have enough in my travel fund this month. I don't have enough in my gift giving account this month. I don't have enough in my shopping account this month. So unfortunately, that's going to be a no for me. But it also allows you to say yes to the things that are fulfilling. So for me, I'm a spa girly. I love me a good spa day, a good pamper day, right? But that costs money. If I don't save and budget for those things, if I end up just blowing my money on DoorDash or an Amazon thing that they told me is the last time or to get the discount code, now I wasted that money on something that I actually could have spent on something that fulfills me, which is a pamper day. You know what I'm saying, right? So it really just allows you to say yes to the things that your future self are going to thank you for. Two other things, something that I came up with on my budgeting builder that I built out for my clients. One of them is called the stability budget, and one of them is called the wealthy budget. Basically, the stability budget is how much I need to pay to make sure all my monthly bills and expenses are taken care of. It's just like, especially if you're a business owner, if you're a solopreneur, entrepreneur, making sure I know what is the number that, bottom of the barrel, end of the line, shit hits the fan. As long as I pay X amount towards my bills, I feel financially stable when I pay, making up a number here, $1,500 towards my bills every month, right? That is a very affirming and confidence building statement. If I can say, like, you know what, as long as I pay this $1,500, I feel financially stable. I feel financially safe. As long as I pay these bills, I'm good. However, especially if you're a business owner, there are some months where you make an abundance of money and more than you need just to pay your bills. In that case, we have the other side over here with this gentleman on the rocket ship going into outer space. I feel financially wealthy when I spend, let's say, another $1,500 towards the things that fulfill me. So again, that's the pamper days, that's the, travel if that fills your cup, that's the spending time with my kids if that fills your cup. Maybe what fills your cup is buying luxurious bags and shoes. Okay, if that fills your cup, guess what? Because you have taken the time to map out and track your money, you have an account that is for specifically that. You have enough money saved and you're able to get that for yourself. Boom. Right? Next, we're going to talk a little bit about sinking funds. This actually is from Self. Again, I talked a little bit earlier about Self. I think they're really great. If you want to read into this and understand more about what is a sinking fund, because I feel like it's one of those things that is like a buzzword and people hear it all the time, but it's like, what is it actually, right? So basically, it's just a specific targeted savings account for a specific expense in the future, and it might not have a specific price tag on it, but I'm going to spend in this category, so I want to set aside some money for exactly that. Or even like I anticipate that this thing will come up and I don't know how much it's going to cost me, but I know I need to set aside some money for it. That is a great use of a sinking fund. So here are some examples on the screen. And again, this is from Self. I'm not affiliated with them, promoting for them, not paid by them, not recommending them. I just found this useful. So great uses for a sinking fund, holiday gifts, weddings. Oh my God, people spend so much at weddings. Don't let you be in the wedding party. Woo, you spending money, right? Make sure you have a sinking fund for that. Home repairs, especially if you get a new house, you always underestimate how much you're actually going to spend, or renovations, always underestimate how much you're going to spend. It's great to have a sinking fund with more than you think that you need in the account. And car repairs, new furniture, new appliances. I would also say travel. It's a great use for a sinking fund. But basically, the whole premise is I don't know what is the price tag of the future thing I'm going to get, but I'm consistently adding money into this account and taking money out of the account for whenever these things come up. But it's a consistent revolving sinking and replenishing, right? So you can almost visualize like I'm dropping money in, and then, holidays come up, turn the faucet on, a little bit comes out, put it in the bucket, turn the faucet off, go have my holidays, throw some money back in, it's being replenished, right? It's a sinking fund. Sinking funds, really great to use. Again, putting a name on it, great for the psychology, great strategy to use. Also great to be able to separate, again, your checkings, my everyday living expenses, spending from these other spending categories, right? Sinking funds are great. Emergency account. I've been saying it more than one time throughout this. Emergency accounts are so important, right? And a lot of times people end up in a out of control debt situation because they did not utilize an emergency account. So here's just some few pointers about emergency accounts. Create rules for your emergency account. You get to determine what's an emergency. Then after that, stick to it, right? So that's a very important thing. You decide for yourself what actually is an emergency, right? Because if I'm in a line at Target and I need an extra $50, I could convince myself, I could gaslight myself into saying, oh no, this is an emergency. This is an emergency. I need to transfer the money right now. I need to do it now, right? So, but if I actually have the rules and stipulations, if I've taken time to sit down and think through what is an emergency in my book? Okay, if it got to do with my car, that's an emergency because I need my car. If it got to do with my kids, okay, I need to have the money because if it's my kids, I got to come through, right? So you decide what is the reason why I'm reaching my hand in this emergency jar, but then you got to be the one to stick to it. Don't say everything is an emergency because then the account will never grow. Also, and along with that, put your emergency account or emergency fund in a space that is separate from your everyday spending. Meaning, let's say you got the checking and the savings account, because I know a lot of banking institutions will allow you to very easily transfer the money from your savings to your checkings. No, put it in a whole different bank, a whole different institution, a whole different place. You can reach out to me. I can help you put it in a money market account, but put it in a separate place, because then I'm not getting my hands on it every time I'm convincing myself that I'm in an emergency, right? But if I do have something, I could get my hands on the money in 24 to 48 hours, and then it's showing up into my regular checkings, and I can handle this emergency, okay? Next, set baby milestones to grow your emergency savings over time. A lot of people have heard the premise to have 3 to 6 months of expenses saved in your emergency account. For a lot of people, that's a lot of money. For some people, that's over $10,000 a month, especially with living expenses these days, right? With rent, groceries, gas, that's a lot of money. So rather than stressing myself and feeling like, oh, well, I just can't build emergency savings at all because I'm not nowhere near the 3 to 6 months, or I feel bad because I don't have nowhere near close by what I'm setting this goal to be. Instead, set baby milestone goals. So maybe you start off with, let me just build my emergency savings to $100. Okay, maybe you start as low. And also, this is another great point to build financial confidence. Financial confidence doesn't just come from having a whole bunch of money in your account. Financial confidence comes from setting a goal, saying I want to do something, and then following through and doing it. So saying I want to set up an emergency account, set the bar to a point I know I can check it. I know I can clear the bar. Okay, I want to put $100 in my emergency savings this quarter. We just started quarter two. By the end of quarter two, I want to have $100 in my emergency savings. Could it be that you put the $100 in there and then throughout quarter two, you have an emergency, you take the $100 right back out? Yes. That's what happens with emergency accounts. That's another big point that I want to get across. Sometimes people get really worked up about, oh, I had the money saved, but then I dipped into it, or then I spent it, or I had something come up and I had to use some money. Well, guess what? Thank God. Blessings. Great job. You use the emergency account for what it's meant to be used for, right? Sometimes we get so worked up about, oh, I saved up all this money and now it's gone. But guess what? You had the resources there for something, to deal with something that financially maybe was unexpected, and I didn't have to go into debt. Great, right? But set those little baby milestones. Maybe start with 100, then you get to 500, then you do it 1,000, then you do a 1,500, right? But in whatever works for you, maybe you start as low as 50, but start baby steps and then grow. Next, as lifestyle creep comes up, your emergency account should go up. Lifestyle creep is a very real thing. Okay, you start getting more money, you get the better job, you get the promotion you always been waiting for, then you get a new car, then you get a new house, then you get some more clothes, then you get some more stuff, you get a new phone, you get a new computer, you get the new things, right? All of that is more things that if it goes up, if something goes wrong, I need to have the money set aside to replace or temporarily, find a solution until I can get it back, right? So as your lifestyle creep goes up, that emergency account also needs to be going up. And that's another great way to avoid lifestyle creep, because it's like, okay, if I can't fund this trip before I have put money into my emergency savings, then I need to fix my priorities, right? The trip might not be as important. First, I need to fund my emergency savings account, right? Okay. Next, the more dependents you have, the more you need to prioritize your emergency savings, okay? And dependents are not just children. Your roommate might be a dependent. Your parent might be a dependent. Your grandparent might be a dependent. Your other people around, you never realize that, you know what? The more people depend on me, it's always something that happens, right? It always seems that the more responsibilities you have, or the more you start to get on your feet, the more things pop off, right? So understand that the more responsibility you have, the more protection you need, the more emergency savings you need to build up. Next point, come up with a clearly laid out plan to replenish your emergency savings when you dip into it. Like I said earlier, if you have an emergency and you have the emergency savings there to not have to go into debt, that's amazing. Congratulate yourself. Really, I want you to celebrate that. I'm going to get to that point a little bit later about celebrating yourself, but celebrate that you had those resources there to save you at a time in need. But also come up with a plan so that you can replenish that, right? And sometimes people will go hard and go with the strategy of, I need my emergency account to be back where it's supposed to be. So I'm going to just take all of my next check and put it all back into my emergency savings. Maybe that doesn't make sense. Maybe it makes sense that you do it over the next few checks. You take a couple $100 out of the next few checks, or it's $50, $25, whatever, right? But small chunks out of the next few checks. And that's how you replenish your emergency savings, right? But sometimes people get in that little paranoid state of like, my emergency account is too low, like I'm too scared, right? But that's okay. If you have a plan that clearly lays out, okay, it's going to be back to the threshold amount that I need to have in my emergency account, it's going to be back by this date because I have a plan to replenish it. Remind yourself of the importance of your safety net. This is what helps you build financial confidence. Like I said earlier, guys, small steps is what builds confidence. Small steps. Celebrate your wins. Ooh. Celebrate yourself. I actually really love when my clients call me and they have good news. I actually got a really good call from my client earlier this week, and it was just such a fulfilling, like, oh, it really filled my cup. It made me feel warm. It made me feel happy that she was able to accomplish something that she has been working very hard towards. And like I said earlier, sometimes, we're able to do things, or maybe we had the savings there, we were able to hit that milestone goal, or we had the emergency savings there so we didn't have to go into debt, or I paid off the debt and now I'm on to the next one. And life has this funny way of just keeping us going and keeping us chugging along and on to the next problem, on to the next issue, on to the next goal, whatever. But from a money psychology perspective, it is so important to take time, look at what went well, and even the times that didn't go well, right? Saying I did my best with the resources I had at the time, right? Like, okay, maybe I did have to take out this payday loan, but guess what? I learned some mistakes from that. I learned that I've seen payday loans with like 100% interest rate, which is absolutely criminal. So I learned 100% interest rate is actually not good, right? So sometimes you got to learn lessons the hard way and celebrate your mistakes, because even that means that you are learning. The people who are too scared to do anything with their money, and they're frightful and they're fearful and they just live in a state of like perpetual, like, nothing's going to work, all of this is just so scary, right? That is not a win. That is when you really need to work on your money mindset. You need to work on your money psychology and your relationship with money. I'm not going to say it's not a win, but that's a true sign that you need to work on your relationship with money. Okay. And a big part of your relationship with money is celebrating the wins, even the little small things. Like, I paid all my bills on time this month. I was able to pay all my minimums towards my debt and didn't have to juggle no bills this month. Right? Those are small wins that over time help you to build the financial confidence and getting you closer towards your goals. Okay, so last few points here, guys, because I've been it's about to be 2 hours. Oh my God. Oh my Lord. If you've been watching this long, thank you. Thank you. But I'm excited to wrap this up with something that has been very important to me. It's been my latest obsession. I mentioned it in the last meeting. I'm going to keep mentioning it in all of my content because I feel like this is my calling. I feel like this is my purpose. I feel like, my journey so far as a money coach has been leading me to this and these, this form of finance that I want to teach more people about, which is cooperative economics and mutual aid. So when it comes to debt and budgeting, I want to encourage you to make sure you're always building and centering community. I want to encourage you in the last few minutes here to be vulnerable, be honest, be open about your current situations with those you trust. Okay, not everybody, because everybody don't need to be in your business. Okay, I'm a Virgo. I can be a bit private about myself. Okay, everybody don't need to be all up in your business. But with the people that you trust, the people who have a qualified opinion, not your broke cousin who always on to the next get rich quick scam. No, not that person. No, people who have a qualified opinion, maybe someone like myself, a money coach, or somebody in your family, somebody in your circle, right? Be able to be vulnerable, be honest, and be open. Let them know, hey, I got debt. Money is such one of those taboo things that people feel like they never want to talk about, and they feel like they should hide or be ashamed about. But come to find out, most people are having the same issues. And if we actually work together and we're more honest and open with each other, we could probably help each other out more often, right? So be willing to be open with your people, find ways to work together to uplift and support each other. I have been seeing it more and more on social media, different family groups, different friend groups, business partners, just community members, people who are coming together on a weekly or monthly basis, or even quarterly, annually, and they're talking about their finances, right? They're like these people in this picture right here. So get a circle of people that you trust, that you're willing to, whether it's virtual, whether whether it's in person, maybe y'all go to a nice park and sit outside, or you go to a nice lunch spot and y'all have a good old time and y'all kiki, but then you also sit there and you talk about your money goals, what you're working on right now. Maybe you're working on your debt, maybe you're working on your savings, you're working on your budgeting. Get together with other people and support each other. Be accountable with each other. Check in with each other. Hey, I remember you said you was working towards that financial goal. Where are you with it? How's it going with your savings goal? How's it going with your investment? How's it going with that debt freedom goal, right? At checking in with each other, keeping up with each other. Consider all options and reach out for help before going into debt or spending unnecessarily. This is so important. And I told y'all I had a client who called me earlier this week with some really great news. And I'm not going to sit here and yap about the whole story, but one huge takeaway that I had from what she shared with me was, because she was willing to be open and honest and transparent with the people around her, there were people who were just giving her things in abundance, overflowing, and saying, oh, you need help with this? Oh yeah, let me pay for this for you. Let me help you with this. Let me give you this for free. Let me give you this resource. Sometimes we just don't realize that there are people, nonprofits, organizations, communities, whoever, lots of things around that can help you to get resources, get the help that you need, and get out of a situation, especially if it's a hardship situation. If you're falling on hard times, that is a time not to self-isolate, not to feel like, oh, it's just a me thing, I need to figure it out on my own. No, that's when you need to reach out to people. So I put this into ChatGPT. I thought this was very interesting what it came back with: money and mutual aid, basically some ideas on how to work with other people to pay down debt. So let's say you have a group of people and you want to work together to pay down debt outside of just meeting together and being accountable to each other. And maybe y'all meet on a frequent basis and just check in with each other. Maybe y'all actually want to work together and pool your money together, and you're able to actually, uplift each other and get out of debt. So I'm not going to go through all of these just for the sake of time, but I encourage you, if you're watching this playback, pause, read this, because I thought it was very interesting what it came up with here. And I think it's very doable. And also it's very aligned with like the susu. And it even mentions that in the first one. If y'all have heard of the susu or the flower or the lending circle, right? And listen, that it is funny that it revives itself every like decade or so, and then people become interested in it again. And there are some communities that really utilize it and it works. And I think that's for a reason, right? I think that if you find the right group of people, I think, this is not for everybody. This is definitely for a specific type of mindset of person, right? So I want to encourage you to look into this. Maybe it does work. And I'm actually on this next screen right here going to lay out an example of how it could work for you. So let me just breeze through this really quick. It's the last slide, y'all. I promise. I know I'm talking a lot. Now, this is the last slide. So this is a really great way of how, let's say you have a family group, some people that you trust, and you want to be able to use mutual aid and pool your resources that everybody can get out of debt together. So here's everybody's situation. You got the mom, Angela. She has a credit card debt of $4,000. It's high interest, it's 24%, and the minimum payments barely are making a dent. You have the son, Marcus, whose car loan balance is $6,000, moderate interest. You have the daughter, Keisha, whose student loan is $10,000. It's lower interest, but long-term burden. You have the aunt, Denise, who has a payday personal loan, and that's $2,000, and it's extremely high interest. It's urgent. Like I said, those payday loans are ruthless. I've seen some crazy interest rates. And then you have cousin Jonathan, who has a credit card debt of $3,000, and he's behind on payments. So basically, here's the plan. What y'all decide to do, y'all start having family finance meetings, and y'all get together and y'all start talking about it. You're like, you know what? I think we all can work together to help each other eliminate debt. And here's how we're going to do it. Each person contributes $200 a month into a pot of money. Let's say for this family, for this example, they decide to use PayPal. They put $200 a month into their PayPal account. Everybody can contribute. Everybody's part owner of the account. And each month they pull $1,000 into the account. Then every month, one person receives the full $1,000 and they agree on the payout order based on urgency and strategy. So again, this is a group of people who are in alignment. They are in agreement. They're not going to be hard on each other, be like, hey, you were supposed to give me my money. They not going with nobody who can't afford the $200 a month. Like, oh, well, sorry, this month I wanted to go out, so I don't have my $200. No, everybody is on the same page. They are in agreement, and they all are working towards the same goal. Everybody doing that $200 a month. Let's see in the 6-month timeline how it lays out. So month 1, Denise pays down half of her payday loan. Month 2, Jonathan catches up on the payments. Month 1, Denise received $1,000. So she pays down half of her payday loan, which was $2,000. Month 2, Jonathan receives $1,000. So he catches up on his payments and he lowers his balance. On month 3, Angela receives $1,000. She brings down her balance and cuts down the interest accumulation. Month 4, it goes back to Denise again. Again, this is why it's important. Now, this is just this case scenario. I'm not saying that this has to be everybody's, how they lay it out. But in this example, this family sat down and they said they agreed to pay it out based on urgency and strategy. So probably part of their strategy was, we're going to do the debt avalanche, which means they're paying off their highest interest bearing debt first as a family. So in that case, it would be Denise's payday loan, which I'm going to assume is probably higher than 30% interest. So guess what? Now Denise received that second $1,000 in month 4, and now she has paid off the entire payday loan. This is the team's first win. And again, we got to celebrate the wins. This is exciting. Everybody's celebrating. We were able to get one person to debt freedom. Month 5, it goes back to Jonathan again. Now he has reduced his debt by 2/3. He has balanced out his debt to income ratio. Guess what? Now that opens up a whole bunch of opportunities for Jonathan. Maybe he could get approved for a credit card. Maybe he could get approved for, something else that he has been going for. But now that we have reduced his debt to income ratio, we brought down his debt by 2/3. That's a huge win for Jonathan. By month 6, now the money's going to Marcus, gets $1,000. He makes a lump sum annual payment on his car loan balance, and he's able to reduce his monthly payment. So that, again, is a win, right? Maybe previously his payment was like $700, and now the payment's $300. That's a win. Marcus now has more disposable income that he can save, that he can invest. Maybe it's even more money that he ends up putting into this account, right? So that is just one round of 6 months. What happens if they keep going, right? So if they keep going, Denise is already debt-free by the end of this round. But guess what? She keeps contributing her $200 because they're all in agreement that they can do this and they can get debt-free together, that they can work together, right? Denise is not just selfish and centered on herself and say, well, I'm debt-free now, so I'm good. No, this is about community. This is about mutual aid. So she's able to go ahead and keep contributing her $200, and she no longer needs to pay out. So now that's more money that the group has to disperse amongst the other members. And for months 7 through 12, Jamal is able to finish on his debt. Angela is able to aggressively pay down her debt. Marcus reduces his car loan faster. Keisha is able to make larger chunks towards her student loans, which in this picture, we didn't even talk about Keisha, but that's because her student loans could probably be in forbearance. So why do we need to focus our energy right now on Keisha? Instead, let's help some of the people who are in most need right now, knowing that Keisha is going to later be able to make larger chunk payments towards her student loans, which again can get her out faster and have her pay less in interest. So although it's not an immediate win for Keisha, that's not what she's thinking about. She's thinking about a win for everybody. By month 12, 2 to 3 of the family members are completely debt free. The remaining balances are significantly reduced, and everybody has built better habits, better accountability, and most importantly, a support system. Look at how much faster they were able to tackle this debt because they did it together rather than trying to bootstrap it, trying to figure this out by myself, trying to be like, oh, I got myself in this situation, so I need to get myself out. Now, that might be true to a certain extent. And again, we need to look at your habits, we need to look at your mindset. But the more that you can align with the people around you, the faster we can go together. So that is everything that I had for you guys. I know this was so long. I thought this was going to be a shorter live stream than my other one. It was not. But if you're watching this playback, I truly appreciate it if you made it to the end. This is my actual cell phone number, so please reach out to me if you feel that you can benefit from anything that I talked about today. Some of the specific things that I help people with, that I specialize in, that I talked about today, is a debt elimination plan, budgeting, money mapping and tracking, money mindset shifts, family finance meetings, business savings, investings, business debt elimination. I could do all types of business things, especially entrepreneurs. Love working with entrepreneurs, but also saving and investing. So my consultations are free. Let's set up a time to talk. This QR code leads right to my booking link. Also, the link is right here in case you're watching it. And you want to just click the link or copy that link right into a browser. It takes you right to my booking link. But you can also call or text me and I'll be happy to help you. But other than that, I love you guys. I appreciate you guys. I can't wait to come back to you next Friday with another Financial Literacy Friday. Next Friday, I think we're going to be talking about saving and investing. I'm pretty sure. I don't know. Don't hold me to that. But we're going to be talking about something really great next Friday. So I hope that you will join me. I hope that you'll watch this playback. Please share it with others. Share it with somebody who you feel like can get something out of this. If you know somebody got some debt, if you know somebody needs some help with budgeting, share this to them. I've been more than happy to give them some really great tips, tricks, pointers. Other than that, I love you. I'm proud of you. Life is hard. Money can be a lot. But I hope that this simplifies and helps you to understand things better, make sense of things better. And that's it. So have a good one. Happy Friday. Have a good night. Bye, guys.